the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me. I'm a man. I'm for you. Can't wait. Let's go.
Good morning. Welcome. It is Coffee and Sports. It is the morning show here on Sports Empire Network. Thank you so much for making us a part of your every morning routine, whether you're watching us live on Facebook or you are live on YouTube right now, or you are watching us live over on Roku TV. Thanks to Northeast Streaming Sports, we appreciate the fact that you are making us a part of your morning every morning. I am Chris, and of course, that is Mo. Mo, how are you this morning, sir?
I'm doing good on a feel-good Thursday, and guess what, Chris? Congratulations to the Texas Rangers.
Right, the Texas Rangers, Super Bowl champions. And Mo, they did it in a way that it gives you hope. No matter who your team is, no matter what sport you root for, it was this time a year ago. If you were a fan of the Texas Rangers, you were just a couple of weeks off of wrapping up a 102-loss season. Right. Miserable season for the Texas Rangers at this time last year. They were not in the postseason. They were watching another team from their own state getting crowned as World Series champions yet again. And let's be honest, Mo, if you were a Rangers fan at this time last year, even the most optimistic Rangers fan did not think in a year they would find themselves in this spot. And that right there, that is sports. Is it not, Mo?
100%. The ability to turn things around the way they did, I think that is sports in itself. That sums up sports in so many ways. The improbable can become a reality. And I love that about sports.
And that takes absolutely nothing away from the Arizona Diamondbacks, who, let's be honest, no one thought they were going to be there. No one thought that they were going to go on the run that they did. No one thought they were going to have the season that they had. If you are a Diamondbacks fan, you should feel accomplished about what your team did. You should feel optimistic about the future of your team. I don't think this is going to be a flash in the pan thing with the Diamondbacks. I know if you look back to the 2001 World Series win, you might have some trepidation about that, given what transpired with your team over the next 2 decades following that World Series. But I think that this team is different. I think they're constructed differently. I think that they have the young talent. I think that they have the bullpen. I think that they have the arms coming up in the system. I'm not saying they're going to be back to the World Series year in and year out over the next 3 or 4 years, Mo. But what I am saying is you have a team that is going to be in the playoff conversation for the foreseeable future. And that's what you want, is it not?
Right. They're going to be relevant for the next few years. Are they going to turn around and find a way to beat the Phillies again this time next postseason? It's possible, but you never know. Matchups are everything. I'll be honest. I, for one, thought when I saw that matchup, I deferred to what JG said, and I assumed that the Phillies would find a way, maybe because of their bats, the long ball, and yet the Diamondbacks figured them out in a Game 7. Game 7, that's insane. So, look, overall, we talk about this all the time. Major League Baseball, I am your target audience. I am your casual fan. You find a way to bottle this up, bottle what happens in the postseason up, and sprinkle some of that magic through your regular season, and you can bring me in. I'll sign up for that type of regular season.
What we're going to do right now, though, is we're going to bring in JG. JG is here to talk all things Major League Baseball as we wrap up the Major League Baseball season. JG, great to have you here, sir.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas.
We talked on Tuesday when you were here, and we talked about the importance of Game 3 and Game 5s. Obviously, Texas won Game 3, and it was definitely the momentum they needed to carry them to this World Series victory. It doesn't take away from the pitching performance that Gallen had last night. I think he had a no-no into the 7th. Obviously, the blowout didn't go the way the Diamondbacks wanted the game prior to that, even though they came back in that game and they made it competitive in the end. But JG, let's start with Arizona. It's hard. I know losing sucks, right? You never walk away from a chance to win a championship in the moment being like, you know what, moral victories, guys. Like, let's pat ourselves on the back. Like, it's hard to do that in the moment. But if you're not a player, if you are someone who runs this franchise, if you are the general manager, if you are the coach, if you are the owner of the Arizona Diamondbacks, you have to walk away from this saying, this was special. This was a special run we went on. And more importantly, you have to walk away from this saying we can build on this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As y'all said, nobody expected the Diamondbacks to even be in the postseason, let alone the World Series. This was they're still, and essentially they're in their stages of rebuild. I mean, 2 years ago they were 100 loss team, 110 losses, and here we are now talking about them, being in the World Series. So nobody expected this. I at the beginning of the year I said that they were going to be a dark horse team. I didn't predict that they were going to make it to the World Series. So you exceeded your expectations, and you saw development of your young guys. Corbin Carroll, nobody expected him to blossom like he did this year. I mean, the funny part in spring training was, the talk was Corbin Carroll being dropped off by his parents in Arizona, and here we are talking. He's going to be probably should be, and I don't know if he will be, but unanimous Rookie of the Year in the National League. I mean, you have a good foundation piece of Zach Gallen. Nobody expected Zach Gallen to be a Cy Young candidate. And here we are today talking about him potentially winning the Cy Young. Willie, there was a point of the season that he was the favorite. I don't know if he still is, but he pitched like an ace. You now know your foundation of your rotation is set with Zach Gallen at the number one. Now you got to continue to build your pieces. Fott was another one, a rookie pitcher that you can trust him to be a 2 or 3 behind Gallen, with Merrill Kelly in there. So you have a foundation set in your rotation with a 1, 2, 3. Add a couple pieces here and there, maybe a little bit more depth. Your lineup needs to get a little bit more athletic in certain areas, third base being one. I know Evan Longoria, 10-plus years ago was a great third baseman, 38 years old now. It's probably not going to be, obviously not a long-term solution, but you got to look into areas of getting better. But your foundation is set now. And you believe in what you have with the young guys, and you have young guys still coming up in the farm. So nobody should be upset out in Arizona right now. Nobody should be, disappointed. Losing does suck, and if losing the World Series and having opportunities, I'll say that disappointed about having opportunities to win games in the World Series, letting games go. We'll go to that game 1 where you had the lead in the 9th inning. That was a factor that you could look at and say, man, we let it slip away, but there is a lot of good right now that they continue to build, and keeping your general manager was a big factor where he looks at it and goes, yeah, I could go to Boston. Boston wants me to interview. I could go to Boston and get paid a lot of money, but it's a rebuild. That's another rebuild I have to do. Whereas the rebuild's done here in Arizona. The job is already, I finished the job. I got to add pieces and continue to build the foundation more and stronger. And I can challenge the LA Dodgers next season. I can challenge the San Francisco Giants, who we know they're going to be making some moves this offseason. We already have everything set. Let's just build and continue to grow. And let's see what we can turn this thing around and continue to be a World Series contender.
On the other side of it, obviously, you have the Texas Rangers. Joy, jubilation is happening right now for the Rangers fan base this morning. And that is going to obviously carry them through the offseason and into the early parts of the next Major League Baseball season. My question here for you, JG, is what does Texas need to do to maintain and get back to the World Series next year? Because it's great to win one. And what you don't want to be is that team that doesn't even pop up into the conversation for another 20 years. So you got their first one. They were the dominant team in the AL for the majority of this past season. They had stretches where, they were a little inconsistent. For the most part, they were one of the top 2 or 3 teams. They fell off a little bit in the end. They got it back together for the playoffs. They win the World Series. They're obviously going to be in that conversation going into next season as a favorite to get back there. What do they need to do during the offseason to address any of the holes or to kind of bolster up any of the flaws in their lineup?
I'll say this. As good as the Texas Rangers batting lineup was this year, it's going to get even better next year because they have a kid. And we all, if you watch college baseball, They have a kid in the minors right now that was tearing it up in the minors. He tore it up in college baseball at the University of Florida, and that's Wyatt Langford. Wyatt Langford's coming. He went from, he got drafted this summer, and he had already made it to AAA by the end of the season.
Damn.
And he was tearing it up, batting over 300 everywhere he went. He's going to make that team even better. Talk about what Evan Carter did when he got called up, and he put some energy into that lineup a little bit more and provided a spark. My goodness, Wyatt Langford's going to do the same thing. That outfield is going to get even better because now your outfield will be Evan Carter, Wyatt Langford, Adolis Garcia. That's not fair.
Help our listeners understand. That's not normal. That's not a normal
not
trajectory for a college player coming into the majors.
No, and that isn't normal. Guys, it takes, especially position players, it takes 2 years to get to AAA. It'll take 2 years to get to AAA for typical position players. Pitchers a little bit different, because especially if guys are even the top pitchers, they'll take 2 years to get to the big leagues. Position players, it takes 2 to 3 years to get to AAA. And he did it in 3 months. That is ridiculous. And I would say credit to this entire draft class, because there was a handful of players who did that as well, that got from drafted in June and were made it to AA, AAA by the end of August and September. That's not normal. So no, Wyatt Langford absolutely tore it up. He was above a lot of the players that have been in minor leagues for a year or 2 years and 3 years. He was above that and got that call up to AAA. He will be in AAA to start this. He'll be in big league spring training this in 2024, which again, just months away from being drafted. Again, that's uncalled. That's unheard of. And he'll be in AAA to start the season in 2024. He'll get called up in June once the stupid hey, we got to make sure we keep the service time in our favor rule, that the Chris Bryant rule, where we can't, if we call them up in the big leagues immediately, we lose a year of service time, but if we wait till June, we keep that extra year of service. It's so stupid, it is, but that's what they're going to end up doing. So we'll see Wyatt Langford in the outfield in Texas if he continues this trend, what he's doing. He'll be in the big leagues and starting in the outfield in June, and just makes that lineup even better and stronger. Especially, I said, so you can move Carter. I think the plan will be Carter to be a leadoff hitter, and because Langford is a middle of the order bat, he will bat in front of or behind Adolis Garcia. So Carter now moves to your leadoff. You have Seager batting 2, Garcia or Langford batting 3 and 4. I mean, that lineup just got deeper and better from there, because we know what Carter is able to be. There's one move I'm particularly interested in seeing if the Rangers are going to do to improve their team. And I think, I talked to a couple of Rangers fans about this over the weeks and months. First base is a little bit of a weak spot. I know Lowe did a great job and did a good job as far as hearing he provided production at times. There's one move that I'm thinking that could happen, because this team has sold this year. They have said that they're planning to contend in 2025, 2026. And I think that kind of gave away the team that I'm talking about. And that is the New York Mets. I think you can entice the Mets, if you're the Rangers, to trade Pete Alonso and throw some pitching prospects. Jack Leiter being one. I think they've soured on Jack Leiter a little bit this year, because he's not been progressing as quickly as they got, and they have other pitchers in their farm that has progressed and almost, just so at the moment right now, have surpassed Jack Leiter in the pecking order of getting called up. So I think they're okay with parting ways with Jack Leiter in a package that you could get Pete Alonso down to Texas, and you throw Pete Alonso in this lineup with Garcia and Langford and Seager, and now you have one of, if not the best offensive producing lineups, and you put Pete Alonso in a lineup where he actually has RBI producers around him. He doesn't have that in New York. There's no protection in New York with him. He's very protected in that lineup in Texas if that occurs. So that is a move that I'm kind of thinking is going to happen. I think the Rangers should make that phone call and say, I have a package with Jack Leiter and a couple other pitching prospects. I'll throw in a AAA guy as well that's going to be getting close to called up, and see if we can make this deal work, and then turn around and sign him to a long-term extension from there, which Rangers have the money to do. They have the money to be able to do it right now, and especially with the new ballpark continuing to thrive with the World Series they had that's extra money in hand that they can increase their payroll. So that would be where I look at and say this lineup can get better, obviously with the call-up of Wyatt Langford, and trading for Pete Alonso just absolutely destroys any hope for American League West teams to try to compete with that lineup. I think that should be the number one move they make this offseason.
And if you're looking at the Mets, they have the lighter connection. So involving Jack is going to entice them just from that, because that's a story, that's a headline, that's a continuous storyline as he develops in the New York Mets organization. And if you're the Mets and you've already said, and they have said, that they're not contending next year, and they're probably not contending the year after, and they're hoping to be in where they want to be the year after that, what are you doing to Pete besides holding him hostage in a makeover situation with a bunch of kids, where he's just going to be 3 years old by the time you hope to be competitive once again? So it only makes sense for them to eventually move off of Pete Alonso. And during the offseason, when fans aren't coming to the ballpark and you're not going to hear about it, and you have time to do everything you want to do in the offseason to make it look pretty for the start of the new season, that's the time you're going to move off Pete Alonso and try to sell it to your fan base. And getting Jack Leiter in the process is part of the way you're going to sell it. And you can put a positive spin on that. And you can bring Al in if you wanted to talk. Like, you can do a lot of things to make that go over well with Met fans. But JG, as we look to the start of the offseason, what do you think is going to be the first big domino of the offseason? And if it's not Ohtani, when do you think we're going to have movement with the Ohtani business?
I think Ohtani is going to take his time, especially after still doing his recovery from Tommy John. Big market guys like that, or big name free agents, they're not ever signed. I won't say ever, but they're not usually signed fast in the off season, especially with the amount of teams that are going to try to court him and bring him in and sell their franchise to Ohtani as for why he should sign. It's going to take some time, and that will be the first big domino. Is what happens to Ohtani first? Once Ohtani we saw this before when you have big, Aaron Judge took time last year, when he was a free agent. It almost put the whole free agency on pause for a lot of players, unless they're the smaller name guys. But the bigger free agents, they didn't get any traction in deals or anything kind of moving forward until Judge signed his deal. And that's going to be the same case this season with Ohtani. So I think a lot of the things are going to be moving. And Juan Soto, what's going to happen with him? Well, that's going to be on pause until someone figures out if they have Ohtani or not. And then the next team, the teams that don't get Ohtani, will turn to Soto. They'll turn to these other guys, the other big name free agents. So Ohtani obviously would be the first domino of the big names in the market that will then produce a lot of the free agent signings that we're going to be waiting this offseason. And I think Soto is the next one. Soto would be the next one below. It's just, what does the Padres decide to do? If they keep him and just say, hey, we're going to just keep you, we're going to keep trying to build around you, we're going to try to keep running this ship, and hopefully it doesn't sink. I don't know if that's going to be the case, because I think that at some point they're going to realize that they're just not in the position to be contenders and competing. They're not functioning well. They have to be able. The Padres have to figure out exactly how this ship is going to be able to run with the big names that they have. So I think Soto will be the next one that gets traded. As far as for free agents, everything's going to be on pause until Shohei Ohtani makes his decision on where he's going to play at, and then you'll see the trickle down effect of the free agents from there. The big names going.
JG, always a pleasure to have you on here in the mornings. But like we do every Thursday before we get you out of here, we got Thursday night football on tonight, sir. Who do you like, the Titans or the Steelers?
Man, these Thursday games are just like you want to be excited. It's football. You get the chance to watch a game, first game of the week, and you're like, Titans, Steelers.
Hey, it's the Will Levis show. Come on now.
Yeah, give me more. I need a little bit more. I need a little bit more. It was Levis and DeAndre Hopkins show, and credit, he did exactly what he needed to do, and Hopkins balled out for Levis. So can he do it again? And can he do it again? That's the question of rookie quarterbacks. How consistent can you do it? So at the moment, right, and then there's no Kenny Pickett, or possibly no Kenny Pickett. I think they haven't ruled him out yet. So with the injury, how is he going to play? Coming off the shoulder injury on this past Sunday. So that just doesn't excite me. But if I have to, if you have to, pull my arm and sit here and talk about it and make a pick, I'm kind of drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit about Will Levis. I think he showed composure. He showed poise in the game. I think the Steelers don't have Micah Fitzpatrick. He's going to be out, which that's a big loss with there. I think they're gonna target T.J. Watt and make sure he does not disrupt Will Levis, and they're gonna attack this secondary a little bit more. So I'm gonna go with the Tennessee Titans over the Steelers tonight, just because I think that the game plan is gonna be make sure Watt has nothing against Levis and be able to give him just a handful of time to attack a secondary that isn't great in Pittsburgh, and that losing their best defensive back is going to actually hurt them. So it'll be a Derrick Henry, a lot of Derrick Henry fed runs, attacking the middle of the defense, and allowing Levis to be able to be in the pocket and attack this secondary that's been a little bit weak this year.
JG, like I said, pleasure as always, sir. Thank you so much for being here this week, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for the
always, guys. JG. Appreciate it.
All right, Mo, before we head to our first break, I wanted to drop something on you, okay? Because this has been sitting with me for a little bit now. And as you know, I'm a numbers guy. You can say things to me, and then I look at numbers, and I kind of see where we lie. So the narrative, and I'm not saying, before I even get into this, because people are going to come at me in the chat, and people are going to come at me in social media, and they're going to say things that I'm not trying to say. So let me tell you what I'm not trying to say. I'm not trying to say the Dolphins are better than the Eagles. Let's open that conversation right now. The Eagles, I think, are one of the best teams in football. I think Miami is a top 5 team in football. I do not think the Dolphins are better than the Eagles. That's where we're going to start this conversation, okay? The narrative, Mo, is that the Dolphins are a fraud at 6-2 because of who they've played on their schedule. The Dolphins' schedule right now, if you look at all the teams they've played, the 8 teams on their schedule have combined for a record of 25-37, okay? If you look at the 8 teams the Eagles have played, they've combined to be 28-34. The Dolphins' schedule is only 3 losses worse than the schedule of the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are 7-1. The Dolphins are 6-2. If you look at the teams that both of these teams have beaten, the Eagles, in their 7 wins, one of them against Miami, which by the way, Eagles fans discredit because Miami is actually the Eagles' best win. The best win on the Eagles' schedule is over the 6-2 Dolphins. If you take the 6-2 Dolphins off the Eagles' schedule, they haven't beat a team over 500. The only other team over 500 they've played are the Jets, who are 4-3, and they lost that game. And Eagles fans don't give the Dolphins credit. Let's not. You can't have it both ways, Eagles fans. Coming into that game, Eagles fan wanted to say things like, "Well, the Dolphins haven't beaten anybody. The Dolphins are frauds. That's why we're going to beat them." You can't say that, Mo, and then turn around on the other side and be like, "Well, we beat the 6-2 Dolphins. We beat one of the best records in the." You can't do that, Mo. If you're going to discredit Miami going into the game, and you're going to say they're not a good team, and you're going to say they're frauds, and you're going to win that game and then say they're frauds again, then when I show you that you haven't beat a winning team this season besides Miami, don't you dare, Eagle fan, puff up your chest and be like, wait a minute, hang on here. They are still 6 and no. Eagles fan, you haven't beat a winning team because Miami was garbage. Miami was a fraud. So that means the best win you have is the 4-4 Vikings, who, by the way, were terrible when you beat them, but they're 4-4. So I'll give Minnesota that. That's your best win, Philly. So don't, Mo, do not come up in here. And I will give you, Philly's a better team than Miami. I'm not saying they're not. And if you want to go one step deeper, Mo, before I let you comment on this, even the quality of wins against bad teams, Miami's quality of win is better. Philly, you've beaten 1, 2, 3, 4 teams by 7 points or more. Miami's done it 5 times. 5 of their 6 wins, 7 points or more. 4 of their 6 wins are by 14 points or more. So while you're playing similar talent, Miami's blowing out the talent they're playing. You're playing close games. 5-point win over the Pats. 6-point win over the Bucks. 3-point win over the Commanders. What do you say, Mo? I'm just talking numbers. Numbers this morning.
So I think your numbers argument is really compelling. It's funny because I was having a conversation just yesterday about how Miami hadn't really beaten a good team, and I didn't disagree with that. They didn't beat no world beaters, but what I said was, at the end of the day, the Dolphins, the Bills, the Eagles, they'll be judged by what they do in the postseason. They'll
Correct.
all be judged by what they do in the postseason. And so while I agree with that they haven't beaten a monster team, it's funny because you pointed that out. I had not even paid attention to the fact that Philly hadn't beat a monster team unless the monster team is your team.
Right.
Right. So that's interesting. And it's fun. Look, it's a secular thing, right? The Niners are on a slide, right? But their biggest win is against the Cowboys. I guess that's a good win. Right?
Right.
That could be a good win, even though they're 5-3. So it's a very interesting dynamic. What I would say is I am interested in the game coming up this weekend, and I know we'll make our picks and stuff like that. Spoiler alert, though. I'll just put it out there. I'm picking the Dolphins to beat the Kansas City Chiefs.
Me too. And a lot of that, and we'll talk about this later, but a lot of that has to do with, I don't think, I could be wrong. No, I don't think I am wrong. Today's Thursday. I don't think the Chiefs are there yet. I think the Chiefs traveled today to Germany. And I think that's an issue. I think that's a mistake on the part of Kansas City. Miami got there Monday. I think Miami got there late Monday, or maybe it was late Monday our time. I don't know about the time difference, Mo. I'm not going to do that math real quick. But Miami departed early Monday morning for Germany. I don't believe Kansas City departs until today. And if you look at the numbers in the NFL, when West Coast teams have to travel to the East Coast, just a 3-hour difference, there's data there. There's tangible data there that impacts teams. Now you're talking about the Chiefs being a couple of days behind their travel schedule compared to Miami. I don't think it's going to be the difference. I think it's going to be a talking point, though. And then we'll discuss further tomorrow when we get into why we're specifically making the picks that we're making. But I think that's a thing. But Mo, I want to talk to you about this, and I don't have the guy's name in front of me, so I apologize to him because he deserves to have his name said. He is a radio personality. He's a millionaire. He's actually, and he refers to himself as a 100 millionaire because that is what his net worth is. I'm upset that I don't have his name in front of me, but I'm going to tell you the story. The story is that earlier this year, I believe it was in January or February, he went on to his podcast, or maybe it's his network. It's probably his network because he's a 100 millionaire. Sure. But he went on to his show and he made a blanket statement about the WNBA. And what he said was that, and this was before the Aces won their back-to-back titles, what he said was that it doesn't matter who wins the WNBA championship this season. The winner of the WNBA championship, under no circumstance, would ever stand a chance to beat a high school state championship basketball team.
I don't know his name either, but I actually saw that.
So he made the statement. Nothing happened with it. Fast forward to a couple of weeks ago, and the internet does its internet thing, and it goes viral, and it's all over the place. And one of the Aces called him a dumb A on social media, and then it got some more attention. And then he started to get dragged through the mud a little bit as being sexist. So he came back out last week, and he wanted to clear the air. And he basically said, listen, I'm not sexist. He said, it's true. I'm telling you, if I let me handpick a high school state basketball champion, and you let me pick the team that I want and put them against the Aces, the boys team is going to win, and it's not going to be close. And then he doubled down. He said, I will put $1 million of my own money on the line. And if the Aces win that game, I will give that team $1 million. And then he went tongue-in-cheek and said, which would be the most money they've ever made for one game, because we all know the financial situation of the WNBA.
Yeah. Well,
and
he's
then
going
he
all in.
said he is. And then on the other side, he said, I also want the Aces to put up $1 million. And when they lose, they're going to hand deliver me that $1 million, and I'm going to give it to the boys who just beat them. And we're going to make sure each of those boys becomes about $100,000 richer. And he reached out to the Aces, didn't hear back. He reached out to the WNBA, didn't hear back. He even went a step further, Mo, and said, if they agree to make this happen, I will do all the legwork and I will get this on national TV. He goes, because this will be the highest rated game in WNBA history. He might not be wrong about that, Mo.
He's not
He
wrong.
might not be wrong. And he said, and he goes, obviously, if I'm doing the legwork, I got to pay my people. He goes, but after my people are paid, whatever extra $1 million are brought in, I will give it to a charity of the Aces' choice.
I love that.
And there it is. So, Mo, I have to ask you, is he wrong? Would a high school male basketball team, these are high schoolers, so they're 17 and 18-year-olds, would they beat the two-time defending champion Aces?
Let me start with this. One, I don't know if dude is sexist or not. He might be. He might just be a jerk. He might be. He might be. But remember, I want you to take this and everybody listening in this context. Take a player, for example, like LeBron James' sons, Bronny James, right? And you take those kind of guys that he competes against in these AAU tournaments. These are the best of the best. Some of these guys actually legitimately don't need to go to college.
Correct.
Maybe for maturity purposes, but I'm talking about on ability alone. Some of them can go straight to the NBA. I don't in any way want to denigrate the WNBA because I've always said this before. As skill goes, when you talk about skills, the fundamentals of basketball, they're actually more fundamentally sound than the NBA is. They are. Having said that, if you took the very best high school basketball players and they played the Aces, they would beat the Aces. I know I don't want people come, oh, you're trying to say that. I'm just being realistic about what you're asking. These aren't just high school players. These are the very best ones, and they are elite athletes. They would start the game off with a huge athletic advantage. That's just being real. And their ability to defend the Aces and how they could be, I don't think it would be a very good game.
It would not be competitive, Mo. And anyone who is going to side with the Aces here, I'm not going to judge you, but I'm going to say this. You've never been to an AAU tournament. You have never seen what these players look like because you can't tell they're not college players. And some of them look like they could start in the NBA tomorrow. Someone dove a little deeper into this. Someone took the top 5 ranked state champions from this past season, and they just looked at their rosters, and they took the average size of the players on all those rosters. And the average size of those players is 1.5 inches taller than the tallest players currently on the Aces. They're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster. I understand the Aces are probably more fundamentally sound. I understand that the Aces probably would have a better basketball IQ. But Mo, like you said, there's going to come a point where the athletic gift that would be this potential male high school basketball team is just going to take over. And I don't think it would be a close game.
I don't. And it sounds harsh and it sounds like you're denigrating the WNBA. I am not. And I think that when we talk about the evolution of the NBA, I think the WNBA will continue to evolve as well. I don't think it's a competitive game this day, but give me the WNBA 10 years from now, and maybe it's a completely different thing because athletes evolve in all sports, right? And so you're maybe 10 years from now, you're going to have 3 or 4 people on the floor in the WNBA who are catching rim runs, right? I'm being serious about that. But right now, today, I don't know the gentleman's name. I saw and heard that when he said it, And I was like, this is going to be a big talking point throughout sports, because a lot of people will say the politically correct thing, like, oh, the Aces, they're veteran players, and they're two-time champions, and they're more skilled and fundamentally sound. Which, by the way, I totally agree about that, and yet that wouldn't be enough for it to be a competitive game. It wouldn't be. So I get why dude is so confident. He knows what we know. That's why he's so confident. And I get why the Aces didn't respond to them, because
they know too.
They know too. Right. They know too. Exactly.
Mo, if you're the Aces, it's a lose-lose situation for you, because best case scenario, you go out there and you win, at which point grown women beat kids. And I know they don't look like kids, but at the end of the day, it would be grown women beating 17 and 18-year-olds, and there may even be a 16-year-old sprinkled in there somewhere.
For sure.
But that's what it would be. And that's not a good narrative. That's not two-time NBA champions beat up team. That's not a good narrative. And they probably know the other headline is even worse. State basketball team from fill in the state destroys two-time WM. Like, it's not a benefit for anybody except for those boys making $1 million.
Yes,
so
the boys would benefit.
That's it. That would be the only benefit from this. It wouldn't help anyone else. It wouldn't help the WNBA product. It just wouldn't. But Mo, let's transition to the NBA here real quick before we head to break. LeBron James had some fun social media interactions last night as he's going around dapping up the entire Los Angeles Clippers team, except for one. And the one that he didn't dap up did not have a good look on his face. LeBron made it a point to dap up every single member of the Clippers on the floor except for Mr. Westbrook, who was standing off to the side. He did not look pleased or amused by the situation. Mo, let's be honest, Mo, LeBron knows what he's doing. This wasn't an accidental thing. LeBron doesn't dap up every single player every single game. I know he does it sometimes. LeBron knew what he was doing last night, Mo. Where do you stand on it?
And he felt good. He was in his bag. They just beat the Clippers. They beat the Clippers in an overtime game. They beat the Clippers in a game where the Clippers were up 20. It looked like they were going to destroy the Lakers, and the Lakers got back into the game, turned the Clippers over. So they win the game, and like you said, he goes on the dapping spree. Yes, he went out of his way to ignore Russ. He knew exactly what he was doing. But he also did it because since Russ has left the Lakers, he's had a lot to say, right? He's had a lot to say. And to be honest, I'm not even sure that Russ is even wrong in what he had to say. But you know, LeBron, if he gets an opportunity to be petty, he's going to take it.
Petty LaBelle.
Yeah, Petty LaBelle. And I wasn't surprised he did it. But in that moment, I'm not going to lie, I didn't see that coming. But when it happened in the moment, I was like, oh, no. He's not going to do Russ like that. I thought, because, normally LeBron does the politically correct thing, and he would have faked dap Russ up, even though they don't like each other, right?
Right.
He did not go that route.
He did not go that route, Mo. Like you said, surprising win last night by the Lakers. Surprising start to the season for some for the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors come out of the gate at 4-1. Their only loss on the season was a very competitive game against the Phoenix Suns to start off the season that they had an opportunity to win. They just couldn't close it out in the fourth quarter. What do you make of, it's only 5 games, but what do you make of the hot start by the Golden State Warriors, a team that many said were going to struggle, and they could still. Again, it's 5 games. They could easily go 1-4 over the next 5 games, and they're a 500 team. But what do you make of the 4-1 start for the Warriors?
Well, the hot start is directly connected to the fact that right now, Steph is an early MVP candidate. Steph is dropping 40. He's dropped 40 twice this season already. Kuminga's become a bigger part of the offense as well, even though he didn't play the last game. I think it's interesting what they're doing with Kuminga and Wiggins And I think it will impact them in the long run, unless they plan on moving Wiggins, because right now they seem to be fading him out of the picture because his minutes are down to like 25 a game, and Kuminga's are up to about 25 a game, and his shot attempts are up. And what I would say is, if they plan on Wiggins being part of their future going forward, if you know his history and you know the kind of player he is and the way his mind works, fading him out or making him less a part of the offense, that won't work with him. That he will go into a dark hole. It's just, he's the kind of guy that it doesn't take a lot for him to become distant or disinterested. So I have to think maybe this is just Steve Kerr trying to different lineups, working out kinks. I can say every game I've watched, and I've watched all their games, Chris Paul has been terrific since he's been there, and he's looked even better since they put him with the second unit. So I like the fresh start, but I think that they're going to come back to earth a little bit because a lot of this has been on the back of the fact that Steph is playing lights out, and I don't know how long he can sustain that.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. On the other side of the break, we're going to dive into some NFL topics. We got Micah Parsons making noise on his podcast. We have the Green Bay Packers general manager saying things that we've all been thinking, and we're going to talk about both of those things on the other side of the break. Make sure you do not go anywhere. Keep it right here. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show with Chris and Mo, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey guys, it's Pavel the Cat.
And Evan Rev Reynolds.
And we are Two Guys in Hockey Talk. We are here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time to talk all things hockey. What do we talk about, Evan?
We talk KHL, AHL, ETHL, every HL hockey league you can think about, prospects, juniors, even the Professional Women's Hockey League.
Yeah, we love it. And we have a website, Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So give us a follow. We got articles on all things related to hockey, and we're writing all throughout the season. So make sure you tune in. We're also on X or Twitter. You can find me at hockey_2, and
you can follow me at RevanEv. Or you can also go to twoguysandhockeytalk.com to follow everything.
We love hearing from you guys, so make sure you tune in, comment, like, give us a follow on our Facebook and YouTube page. We love hearing from you guys, and it's a blast talking all things hockey. Right, Evan?
Hey, man, it is. So, as we say every show, in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Cheers.
Cheers.
Every time I hear the hockey guys, I want to play air guitar.
Right? I know. I love it. I love it. Welcome back. It is Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show here with Chris and Mo on Sports Empire Network. And Mo, the general manager of the Green Bay Packers, came out yesterday, and he said that the next 10 games are going to be very important in judging the future of Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers. And that's big because I have not been afraid to say that I'm over Jordan Love. He is killing my goddamn fantasy football team to the point where, what did I do? I picked up Will Levis and I picked up Kyler Murray. And one of those two is going to be the future of my fantasy football team. My team is 7-1 on the back of Deshaun Watson and Jordan Love. I just need some goddamn consistent quarterback play, and I'm not getting it from those two.
You got it bad.
I got it bad. So I need Will Levis or Kyler Murray to carry me to a championship this season. But, Mo, we knew the Jordan Love experiment. We thought it was fine after a couple games. We thought that he was going to be okay. He's digressed. It hasn't gotten better. It looks like they're probably not going to contend for a playoff spot. Maybe they will. Maybe they'll turn it around. I don't know. Not much has changed health-wise or peace-wise from games 1 through 3 until now. So it's possible that they turn things around a little bit. But what it looks like is the league just got some film on Jordan Love. Film they didn't really have the first month of the season. Now they have it. And now we really see what he can and cannot do. And Mo, before you sound off on this, my bigger question is, the Packers had to know this. He's been in the building for 3 years. You had to know what you had the entire time he was sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. So it's great that you want to sit here and say, well, we're going to take the next 10 games to really evaluate Jordan Love and figure out what his future is, you should have already known what you had. I think I think, Mo, they looked at it. They went glass half full. They got really optimistic. They crossed their fingers, and now reality is setting in. And the reality is you probably should have drafted another quarterback 2 years ago to compete with Jordan Love for when the time that Aaron Rodgers leaving became a reality, because this is going to set you back even further as a franchise.
And usually, even if the guy doesn't start right away, you see it in the offseason, you see it in practice. You kind of have that moment when I think this is the guy. He's unique. When the Packers had, I think it was Don Majkowski, and then they brought in Favre from Atlanta, they knew there was something special about this guy. They knew they had their guy. They had Favre for all those years. When they brought in Rodgers, they knew. When everybody passed on Rodgers, which I don't even want to talk about that because it'll just make me mad, but they knew they had the next guy. They knew immediately. They got Jordan Love in there. He's been in there, like you said, for 3 years. That's 3 off seasons. That's 3 preseasons. And if they thought he was the guy when Aaron Rodgers was in his late 30s, he would have played. He would have challenged. There is a reason that he sat there that long. He's not the guy. And I think, like you said, they did know. They did know what they had, but they said all the right things. They gave him all the support. They said, he's our guy, knowing full well they were like, I don't know if he's our guy. And like you said, they should have drafted a quarterback, because I think after these next 10 games, what's going to end up happening is they are going to draft a quarterback this offseason in this draft. Jordan, and I'm not saying Jordan Love is not an NFL quarterback. He's not a franchise quarterback. He's not the kind of guy to lead your franchise. He's a career backup quarterback.
And unfortunately, this kind of stuff damages your franchise, because this was almost a wasted season. And I get it. Like, you wanted to see him play. You would have been killed if you didn't actually start Jordan Love and give him a chance to prove what he was or he wasn't. So I understand that. But I'm going to kill you for not having a plan B behind him already in the house, because you knew what he was. And now you're in a situation where you're probably going to win a couple more games this season. I think, sure. Have they played Chicago twice? If they haven't, they're probably going to win that other Chicago game. There's other crappy teams in the NFC they're going to play. So they're going to end up with, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins, which I don't think
6 wins.
That's not going to put them in a spot to get one of the top 3 quarterbacks. So now you're in a situation where, do you kind of mortgage the farm to go up and get a guy who knows at this point? And then the other side of this conversation, Mo, is you got Caleb Williams tumbling down the draft board. Apparently, he's lost a lot of his swagger, which different conversation for a different day. But let's be honest, quarterbacks don't just tumble down the draft board. So one of two things: either that's highly being hyperbolic about what's actually happening with him, or he was never the quarterback that he was hyped up to be. So that's a whole different conversation. If you're,
and it's a little bit of both, in my opinion.
Right. So if you're evaluating quarterbacks, that throws a wrench in things, because now if you have the number 1 pick, who knows what direction you're going to go in if you're looking for a quarterback. So it's a tough road for Green Bay to be in. Quarterbacks don't grow on trees. You're coming off of 2 Hall of Fame legendary quarterbacks. You crossed your fingers with Jordan Love. It went well for 3.5 games, and now you realize that you're in the exact situation you didn't want to be in. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to get themselves out of it. Not everyone has a situation like the Packers had all those years ago, going from Favre to Rodgers. Not everyone is fortunate like the Colts.
It does not happen that way, right?
No.
How often do you go from great Hall of Famer to great Hall of Famer? Like that's the exception. That's the exception to the rule. Years ago, the Niners were fortunate. They go from Montana to Young. That's rare. That's not really how this league works. Look at the gap. Look at the gap between going way, way, way back in the day with Kansas City, and I think the guy that won the first Super Bowl with them, Lynn, I can't remember
Yep,
his last
I
name,
know who
forgive
you're
me, but he's
talking
a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And really the next guy that took over, Patrick Mahomes. There's been a lot of guys in between, but nobody had the impact that either of those guys had. It just doesn't happen like that in this league. And now the Packers are back behind that learning curve. And like you said, do you mortgage the future to go get your guy? And the question is, if you get your guy, is he the guy? Because that's the whole thing about drafting. You go, we got exactly who we wanted. Look, take it from me. I'm a Niners fan. John Lynch swore up and down, he's worth all those picks. We got Trey Lance. You don't know until you know.
And look at franchises like the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Broncos. The time after Elway and Kelly and Marino left the building, I mean, Denver didn't have it until they went and got Peyton Manning.
Right.
And it was a stroke of luck. It was a Peyton Manning neck injury that got them Peyton Manning. If not for his health issues, he would have retired with Indianapolis, and you wouldn't have had him, and you wouldn't have had that 3 or 4 year run that got you a Super Bowl. Buffalo went basically until Josh Allen. There was a little blip in there with Doug Flutie, where there was some Flutie magic and some Flutie flakes being sprinkled around, but that didn't get you into the Super Bowl conversation. And the Dolphins haven't had anyone except for Tua. And most people will look at Tua right now and say he's not a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I would agree. He's not a Hall of Fame quarterback as it stands today, but he is a quarterback that has put you back into the Super Bowl conversation. And decades, Mo, it took decades for those franchises to find that next person to get them back into the conversation when they did have a Hall of Fame quarterback.
It makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, and we say it all the time. It is a quarterback-driven league, 100%. And the proof is right there. Micah Parsons went off. He went off yesterday, Mo, about head coaches' guaranteed contracts. This is because the Las Vegas Raiders are paying not one, but two men to not coach their team. And they are paying nearly $100 million to these two men to not be their head coach. And that, of course, is John Gruden and Josh McDaniels, who they just fired. And
you know what? In a weird way, I didn't want to cut you off. That's money well spent to keep them both away.
I agree. I agree.
That's a bargain to keep both those guys away.
But this has spurred Micah Parsons to be upset that head coaches receive guaranteed contracts, and the team can choose to move on from them. They still pay them, but players do not. And Mo, I'm going to let you talk about this, but here is my take on it. Micah Parsons, you need to shut up, because it is nonsensical in this league when the average shelf life of an NFL player is under 4 years to guarantee anybody money. And the other thing, Micah Parsons, that you need to realize, if this were to ever happen, if this were to ever become a thing, and I don't think it ever would, but if this were to ever become a thing, Micah, you're not going to be happy, because the only players that will be guaranteed money are the quarterbacks, because it is a quarterback-driven league. No team is going to guarantee a wide receiver or a running back or a cornerback or a safety or a pass rusher money on a consistent basis. It will never happen. This league, because you know what, Micah Parsons, when a team goes to fire a head coach, it's the owner's choice. And it was also the owner's choice to guarantee him the money in the contract.
Right.
It's not the owner's choice when a wide receiver goes out and breaks his leg. He has no control over that. Nothing is going to happen to that coach unless he becomes a racist like John Gruden, or he's found out to be a racist like John Gruden. Nothing is going to happen to a coach where he can no longer coach. It's different with players. And Mo, that is why, in my opinion, it will never happen. And it was a stupid conversation for Micah Parsons to have in the first place.
Look, the thing about common sense is it's not that common. It's not that common.
It's not.
If a coach wasn't guaranteed money, do coaches get to do like players do and get like a $40 million signing bonus?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we all know the signing bonuses are guaranteed.
Correct.
So does he get to have that signing bonus? He's not going to hurt himself coming out the break room with coffee and stuff like that. It's a completely different thing. It's a completely
Can
different
he not report, Mo? Can the coach be like, I'm holding out?
Right.
I'm not going to coach the first 6 games.
Yeah. You know what, guys? See you in week 7.
Right.
I'm not gonna be there. I mean, this is remember and franchises. What do? They invest in top 5 players, right? They invest that kind of money. Coaches aren't done that way. It's a totally different dynamic. And the strange thing is, when you brought up the topic, I thought, I wonder how many people co-signed with what Micah Parsons said, because I bet there was no shortage of people go, he's right. He's right. They get their money. It's guaranteed. Right. But how many coaches load manage? How many coaches sit games out? They're there. They're the coaches. You're an incredible athlete, but the reality is, on any given play, and I never want this to happen, but you could go down, you could be injured, you could miss time, or worse, you could have the type of injury to where you're not the elite player you once were. Why would they want money tied up in someone like that? That happens every day, especially in the NFL of all sports. It is a high collision, bang, bang league. They're not guaranteeing contracts. They'd be crazy not to. You can say a lot of things about NFL owners. They're businessmen, and they're smart businessmen. And to guarantee players' contracts would be bad business.
And why do you think the NFL owners, some open, some not so open, but I guarantee you on the same page, were so upset with the Cleveland Browns for what they did with Deshaun Watson? That is bad business. And not only is it bad business, but you're literally doing it with a quarterback where half the quarterbacks in the league, when it happened, could have been like, oh, hang on, I'm better than him. I am better than him. Why is he getting all that guaranteed money? It's not like they were doing it to Patrick Mahomes or Tom Brady, and the talking point was, come on, Josh, you're not that good. You're not Tom Brady.
Right.
You're great, but you're not Patrick Mahomes. That's a conversation that at least makes sense. When you do it with Deshaun Watson, even athletes who might be a little slow on the uptake, Mo, they know they're better than Deshaun Watson. You can't pull the wool over their eyes on that one.
And he's talented. He's a talented, raw, talented guy. But like you said, the day that contract became a thing, I wonder how many quarterbacks thought to their agent, I should say something. Right. I should say something. I need to renegotiate. I need to redo my contract. I wonder how many phone calls the Browns front office got that day from other front offices going, what are you doing, man?
Correct.
What the hell are you doing?
And how many agents were like, yeah, we'll talk about that later. I hear you. Let's table that for a little bit, and we'll circle back, because the agents know, Mo. The agents know they can't go to the team and be like, Lamar Jackson wants all the money. He wants the Deshaun deal. Oh, I'm sorry. That's a terrible example. Lamar doesn't have an agent.
Right. And he ended up, you know what? To his credit, he negotiated himself a very good deal.
He did. Give Lamar credit where credit is due. All right, Mo, before we get out of here, we got Thursday Night Football tonight. It is game 2 in the career of Will Levis. It is the smoke and mirror show that is the Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. If the Titans win, Mo, they're back to 500. They're a 4-4 team in a very weak division. And they're back in the playoff hunt with Will Levis. It's interesting. If the Steelers win, they're 5-3, and they're continuing to be in the hunt for that division. It means it may not be a great game, but the game means something important to both of these teams as far as a playoff positioning is concerned. And for Thursday Night Football, I can't ask for any more. I'm on board with it. I'm going Tennessee tonight. I'm going to ride that Will Levis train until he proves that he's a rookie quarterback.
I'm riding the Will Levis train. I've bought into it. I was really impressed with what he did his first outing. Look, I know they have film on him now, but you know what? The Steelers' offense is nothing to write home about. So I think Tennessee finds a way to win this game.
All right. Shout out to everyone who was in the comments this morning. We appreciate all of you. Anthony was in there. Jay was in there. Key was in there. Linda was in there. Thanks for showing us love here on the morning show. Mo, close us out.
Appreciate y'all's support. Thanks for watching. Make sure you smash that like button, share us, and check out all the great content that is offered to you at Sports Empire Network. Check out the Empire.
We'll see you same time, same place tomorrow morning where we break down all of our picks for week 9. Make sure you're here. Coffee and Sports. It's the morning show with Chris and Mo here on Sports Empire Network.
I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face.
Oh, I'm from Brooklyn.
Hey, you guys any